Hello, and welcome to Anime Audio Commentary. Today I'll be commenting on Episode 9 of Dungeon Meshi. If you'd like to watch along, then start watching now. So last we left off, things were in a rather dire state with Marcel being pretty grievously wounded and the rest of the party not really being able to move on. So it seems like I'm wondering if this is that other party, if they finally caught up or if these are just strangers. Oh. Namari. Isn't she the person, or one of the two rather, who ditched the party? Wow. You know, she's acting all buddy-buddy with a bunch of people who she basically just left for no good reason. Wow. Yeah, you know what? I really hate to sympathize with the elf here, but Marcel is correct. Like, you know, why are you just poking your nose in around here? Wow. That's rather ghoulish. And I guess speaking of ghoulish, you know, all these people seem to care about is money. Wow. Wow, I'm kind of at a loss here. I mean, I guess it makes sense why Namare would pair up with these people, since they seem to have, I guess, the same ideas about money, but, man. So this is interesting. You know, they're gnomes, and, I mean, normally for fantasy creatures, I would have assumed dwarves were greedy and miserly, but these guys seem to think they can take care of this water spirit without, any consequence. Good lord! Wow. So this thing really isn't to be messed with, and, to just sort of be blasted through the head like that. Good lord. Alright, these gnomes are evil. I don't know what the deal is, but like, man, they shouldn't be so casual about stuff like this. Wow. So this is something, I guess, you know, Senshi... I mean, he has a point. You shouldn't probably bring the dead back to life willy-nilly. Man. Okay, so it seems like it's a property of the dungeon that allows for resurrection. That is rather horrific. Yeah, that gnome, he's an evil little bugger. I mean, he's saying basically, the dungeon has this weird property so we can violate any taboo we want, essentially. Alright, that's something at least. At least he recognizes Namaria is not dependable. That's certainly a fair statement, seeing as how she was willing to, leave a party ostensibly of friends over money. Man, that's really rubbing me the wrong way. See, I guess I assumed this would be that other party we mentioned before. Or not mentioned, that we saw before, rather, but, I guess those guys are going to continue bumbling in the background from time to time. Wow, okay. A little bit of, fantasy racism, I guess, Can't be avoided, I suppose, but this is one person to talk here. I mean, she has a point. You should take care of your equipment and all that, but at the same time, you should also take care of your party members. And, despite all her wisdom about using, good equipment, Laius' sword has a little quirk of its own. And, yeah, everybody's being a little overly simplistic here. It's like, I'm pretty sure there's a monster. I don't know what it is, You can't necessarily kill it immediately. Yeah, so if this guy can just sort of resurrect his companions, then he's really, I guess, careless about their lives. There's a monster lurking. There might be a good way to handle it, but, who cares about your expendable hirelings if you can just sort of revive them? Yeah, this guy, he's a real jerk. I mean, he seems to be the sort of person that really has no business venturing into a dungeon. He can't take care of himself. He really only depends on his hirelings. And he doesn't necessarily trust their judgment either. So I guess I'm wondering, what's Laius' plan here? Presumably the idea is to be as covered as possible. He mentioned that contact with these vines is no good. So if he can sort of trick them into grappling him while he can't be affected by them, then he has the potential to do some real damage without facing much risk. Although I do have to wonder, what's a longsword going to do in a situation like this? I feel like in these confined spaces, your best bet would probably be to use a dagger, Alright. So I'm wondering if that was part of the plan, free the crossbow so you can shoot this thing in its, central node or what have you. Now that was something that Senshi was willing to just sort of dive to catch the crossbow, because I guess, you wouldn't want it to become damaged from the fall. Man, and Laius ended up worse for wear. So naturally, I imagine this old gnome isn't going to heal Laius just because he's not willing to pay. But, man. Oh, wow. So I assume it's like a bee sting that it swells up. Ah. Senshi. Man, it's probably not a good thing to just pick up stuff that'll sting you like this. Man. So I guess naturally this is what they're going to be eating. Oh. It's like a banana. Huh. That's an interesting way to prepare it with like a vinegar dressing. But I guess if it also helps with the wounds, why not? Not exactly a high cuisine or anything, but I guess, oh, that's interesting. That different sections of it would have different flavors. I wouldn't imagine that would be the case if it's like sections you effectively make by cutting the cross section. Yeah, I don't blame Namari for not immediately wanting to eat this stuff, I mean, she wasn't even invested enough to help Fallen, much less eat monsters as a means to save money. Okay. That's a surprise. He's actually willing to heal the others. I mean, I guess it's only fair seeing as how it was Laius' intervention that saved everyone. And you know what? That's nice. It's nice to have Marcel back up and around, because I have to say that last episode was rather harrowing. Now I've got a bit of a bad feeling here that they're sort of working up towards Namari rejoining the party here or something like that. I don't want that to be the case. I don't like this character. Marcel's got the right approach, I think. We'll look over this slight for now, but, don't expect us to be on good terms after what you've done. Yeah, I guess it is interesting that Laius is acting neutral. He should be the most invested in wanting to save Fallen, I suppose. I guess that's just sort of his personality. Oh. That sheds a little light on things. That Marcel angered the water spirit by pouring boiling water on it. I mean, I can see why that would irritate it. Wow. That's actually kind of interesting in terms of like water spirit physiology. As the cells that were angered die off and are replaced by cells that aren't, it'll eventually sort of calm down. Huh. See, I would have assumed it was like one cohesive thing. Now, what's the rationale here? They want to send Marcel back because she doesn't have magic. So what's the deal? She doesn't regain any by resting? Man. This feels kind of tone deaf to just sort of send Marcel back. I mean, sure, she might not be at her peak in terms of usefulness, but even so, she deserves to stick around, if only to help. Now, it's interesting that Namari is the voice of reason here. You can't just send her back. But yeah, no doubt Marcel's not happy to be helped out in this regard. Now, I guess this was to be expected to a degree. You know, if Namari does have experience killing dragons, then they will want her help. Man. Alright, so I guess there is a reason after all for this whole thing. Yeah, you know, I guess Chilchuk has kind of the right idea here. You know, you don't want to torpedo her reputation, but personally, I don't see why anyone should care about her, considering what she's done. Sure, she might be in a poor financial situation, but that's not everything. I mean, Chilchuk said it himself, there are pros and cons. Okay. So in order to regain her magic, she needs to drink that water elemental. That's something that strikes me as abundantly dangerous. Because, I mean, if it was able to just puncture her just willy-nilly, like, who's to say if you drink it, it won't do the same thing, but internally. Man. So, I guess Marcel has a bunch of ideas here on what to potentially do, but I don't know how efficacious any of these are going to be, really. And, you know, I guess this is an interesting point. You know, things aren't running exactly on Dungeons and Dragons rules whereby, you know, like a good long rest for, you know, a night will give you your magic back to some degree. So I feel like, I guess they do have to cook the spirit. So I'm wondering, like, how exactly do they trap it? I feel like they have to use Senshi's pot. But, how do they fool it? Because I feel like it's not just going to hop in the pot willingly. Now, I guess this is somewhat telling that, you know, Senshi was willing to turn an adamantine shield into a pot. But, man. Alright. You know, that is a plan, I suppose. Trap it in the pot with the lid and, cook it. But I guess the question is, how are they gonna do it? Like, surely they would have to lure it onto dry land where they can reach it. Man. I mean, surely it's not just going to come to them. And I guess there's also the question of, is the water spirit able to puncture their armor if it's not hitting the pot? Man. So I guess that was nice of Namari to intervene and protect him. You know, I'm sure he would have survived, but he would have definitely been worse off for it. That Namari is taking the opportunity to help, I guess, is nice. You know, it's somewhat redemptive for her, but I mean, speaking personally, I don't think this fixes all the problems she's caused. I guess Senshi's really lucky that this pot is adamantine. Otherwise, you know, that water spirit would no doubt just puncture it and get out. Oh dear. I mean, if they're holding down this pot with their hands even as the pot is hot enough to vaporize water, like that's something. I mean, those are serious burns on your hands, no doubt. Wow. So I guess that's really something that Namari and Senshi were willing to scorch their hands like that. Now I guess the question is, how efficacious is one cup going to be? And if it is highly effective, then, can they bottle this and store it for later? Ooh, isn't she gonna make, like, soup out of this? I mean, he is right, fundamentally. You absorb stuff better if you have a bunch of stuff going together. So, why not make, like, a nice soup? Like, you have the kelpie meat, you have those vines, you've got onions and carrots and stuff like that. I mean, surely this could make, like, a nice magic restorative, like, beef and vegetable stew, basically. I mean, not beef, obviously, it's sort of like seahorse meat, but... I mean, surely it would be better than just the water by itself. Wow. So you know what? It's definitely a courtesy on Marcel's part, and frankly, I think it's more than the others deserve to take part in a meal. I mean, I guess it makes sense, they don't want to let some of it go to waste, and I don't know how they could necessarily store it. But... yeah, like, this is definitely a kindness I feel that Nemari, if no one else, feels kind of uncomfortable with, and frankly, she should. Alright. So it did work after all. There we go. I'm wondering if this is an instance where, like, she needed a little something to jumpstart the rest of her magic restoration, or what the deal was. Yeah, I don't necessarily blame Nemari for sort of lamenting that they were scavenging as they were. Wow. That's interesting that, I'm almost reminded of, like, Spy Family, like, Damien Vision, where, like, the stew looked bland and unappetizing, and then she took a bite, and now it looks good. I guess it's a nice illustration of how much your perspective matters. So that's interesting that, since she's not an especially dwarvish dwarf, not good with metalwork and mining and all that. Now, this is Namari's big mistake, I think. She's trying to be friends with her employers. Like, you could do that, but I don't think your odds are good. It's better for you to be friends with your friends, But she just sort of threw that all away. Wow, okay. So this is it then, Like, Namari would have assumed that Chilchuk would have left, but he's, not willing to walk away. Yeah, now I guess there's the matter of that other guy. Wow, that's interesting. So I guess he's in love with Fallen, but he's not willing to help. Which is interesting, that seems, highly contradictive. I mean, I guess they're leaving on good terms, which is one thing, but, man. Alright, well that's it for this episode. If you've enjoyed it, then by all means, tune in for the next one. See you, Space Cowboy.